Hello, and welcome to the Business Academy. Today's lesson will cover project management within business. Business project management follows an agile approach to managing and working in projects, and there is no limit to what you can accomplish within business. Today's topics will include adding labels, assignments, milestones, and also reporting on your projects. So with that, I'd first like to jump in to the project types and the company settings to start our journey off. To do that, we'll go to the Company tab, followed by Settings from the dropdown. So we have our settings on the far left, and here we can choose Projects and Project Setup, and here we'll see Project Types. So by choosing Project Types, we can see all the project types that we have in our business system currently. And here, by clicking on the name, we can go into the project type to view all that's available. Now, if we want to deactivate any project type, we can also choose the trash can, and this will deactivate the type. Now, when you deactivate, it'll ask you if you want to do this. By clicking cancel, we can go back to the project type list. If we click OK, it'll deactivate that type. Now, not to worry, if you do want to find those deactivated types again, we can simply choose the status field and choose inactive and click search. All the inactive project types will be listed here, and you can simply click the green arrow to reactivate it. You'll get the same pop-up window asking if you want to do this. And by clicking OK, we can then click active again, choose search, and we have our project types once again. Now, to demonstrate all that's available in a project type, I'd like to first jump in and add a new project type. So here we are in a blank project type. So here we can choose the name of the project. We can choose what divisions are assigned to this project. And we can choose those simply by checking off the checkboxes for each individual division. So here I can choose my service and support division and my technicians division. And I can choose anything from the drop down as I see fit to enable those divisions to be assigned to the project. I can check on and off as many as I'd like to suit my needs. Now we also have a couple defaults down here. Now, one is our default assignment category. Now, assignments in business are a useful feature, especially when it comes to project management. Having your assignments set up beforehand is also highly recommended before beginning your project setup. Now, assignment categories are no different. So if you're creating a project and you always want your project manager to be assigned first, we can dictate that with the project type by choosing project manager from the assignment category dropdown. This means whenever you add a new assignment, their assignment category will be a project manager by default. This can be changed with each assignment, however. Now we can also change our default task type. So if we always want to use a certain task type when creating tasks within this project type, we can choose that default task type from the list below. So if I choose support ticket, every time I create a task, it'll default to this type of project. Now, if you have choose, it'll default to a no task type, and you'll have to choose the task type from the dropdown. Now, with any of these options that you pick from here, you can alter them in each task. Now, below that, we can dictate whether this project type needs to be reviewed before it's marked done. We can also dictate whether it needs a promise date. Now, each of these can be marked on or off to fit your needs. For our purposes, I'll mark both of them on. So when we create a project with this project type of support project, the promise date will be required. And before we mark the project done, we'll need to review everything to make sure everything was done accurately and efficiently. And we can also add a description within the project type as well. So I'll just write a brief description, project to support customers' needs. Now we have multiple options with the project description. So we can add a table, we can add hyperlinks, we can add a video, We can add bulleting, different fonts and colors and highlights, and we can center, go left or right, indent, all that stuff's available within the project description. So you can get really descriptive. Now, the description can also be altered on the project level itself, and we'll go over that as we create a project. Now, for our purposes right now, I'll click Save. Now, as I click Save, we'll have multiple different options that pop up since we've saved the project type. One of them is the Custom Fields. Now, the Custom Fields is in a separate tab on the right, and Custom Fields will allow us to add anything on the project level that isn't already available on the project itself. So for instance, if I want to capture any information on the project that isn't already available, I can add a custom field by clicking the plus button to the right of Custom Fields. And this will allow me to add anything that I want, judging by the field types. Now we have multiple different field types, such as an alphanumeric, which will allow you to enter letters and numbers. We have integer, which is just numeric values. A decimal field will be numbers, but it will also have a decimal point in between the last digit and the fractions. We have currency, which is a dollar figure. Date and time field is a clock and calendar icon, which you can choose a date and a time. Date and time are those icons and functions, but separate. Yes and no is a yes and no, and that can be either a radio button or a checkbox. We have an alphanumeric multi-field, which is an alphanumeric field, which is, again, numbers and letters, but you can add multiple lines within the alphanumeric multi-line field. An attachment will allow you to attach any documents, pictures, or posts from your PC or computer. And then we can also select from a custom list, and we can also use existing lists. Now, any of these options can be used for a custom field. For our purposes today, I'll just use an alphanumeric, and I'll name the field anything that we need to capture that isn't already on the project itself. So if I just choose a field, how much support is needed, I can have an alphanumeric type, and here I can enter any words that I want to enter, but I can also add numbers as well with an alphanumeric. Now, if I need this to be required, I could mark required. If I want to protect who sees and who can edit this, I can also mark it encrypted. This means on the project level, they'll have asterisks after I enter anything in that field, and it'll be protected by adding an access down here and dictating who can either view or edit. And as I add people, they'll be able to view and edit all these functions and see the encryption. Now, if I delete it, then everybody can access this encryption field. Now, if it's encrypted, it won't be visible on the partner portal. But if I uncheck encrypted, we can also make this visible on the portal as well, so that any customer contact can log into the portal and view this particular custom field. So if I choose save and close, we can save that custom field. And because it's required, we have a yellow asterisk to the right of the field name. I'm going to go back in, and I'm actually going to make this visible on the portal because I'd like to demonstrate exactly how that looks on the partner portal, which we'll jump to after we configure a brand new project in just a little bit. So now we have a custom field. Now, if you want to edit the section name, you can do so by clicking on the hyperlink for additional info. And this will allow me to change the name of the section. I'll just name this support requirements and click save. the edit section will also take you to that. So if I click the pen and pad, that same pop-up will appear. Now, if you want to add a section other than this, you can click the Add Section button and just name your section. And click Save, and then a brand new section will be added in which you can add custom fields as well. Now you can rearrange your sections by clicking the arrows. And those sections will be changed as you click, and the changes will be highlighted in green and then fade back to white. Now to delete one of these sections, you can simply click the Deactivate section with the trash can, click OK, and that section will disappear from view. Now if I want to include inactive ones, I can simply check this checkbox, and just like the project types, we can use the green arrow to reactivate the section. So now if I go back to the Home tab, we can review all of our project type level information, and I'll choose Save and Close. Now there were two things that I'd like to discuss a little bit that we've covered in our previous business webinar sessions. And one of those are assignment categories. Now we saw in our project types there are defaults that we can use, and those are in any business system. But we can also add our own assignment categories within the settings. Now to do that, we can collapse the projects, and we can expand the company settings. And just 2 notches below is assignment categories. Now by going into the assignment categories, we can see all those defaults that we had on our dropdown. We can view any of them by clicking on the name of the assignment and view all the information that's available to us. Now you may see default for customers. If we close this, you'll note that 2 assignment categories have their defaults. The sales rep is default for all customers, and the store manager is the default for all projects. Now, if you want to edit any of that information, for instance, if we want to make the project manager default for all projects, we can choose Project Manager and click Projects to make that a default for all the projects. We can also change the category type to either an account, a contact, an employee, a pool, or a team. Now, since this is a project manager, meaning it's a singular person, I'll choose employee. Now, account is either a customer or a vendor, and the contact is the contact for either the customer or vendor that's related. So here I'll just leave this at employee. I can add a description. And I can add a customer visible description as well. So if I just copy and paste that down, and I'll choose Save and Close. So now you'll see the default for projects changes to the project manager. Now if we want to add any assignment categories, we can just choose the Add. And this will allow us to name our assignment category and choose the category type as well. So for instance, if I want to name this Technician Team, I can change my category type to Team. And if I need to, I can make this default for customers and or projects. And I can write a description. So I'll say it provides maintenance and support. And again, I can just copy and paste that into the customer visible description and Save and Close. So now we have a brand new assignment category that is available for us to use within our business system. Now the other option that I wanted to demonstrate, which we talked about in our human resources business webinar, are divisions. Now these are internal divisions within our company. And to view those, we can go just 3 notches down from assignment categories and choose divisions. So here we have multiple different divisions. Some are default in any business system, and some we've added, like service and support and technicians. Now, just like the assignment categories, we can click on the name of the particular division to see all that goes into the division, such as the division name. We can choose the leader of the division, and we can also choose the manager email. Each division also has their own hub, which we can add documents, posts, links, pictures, and really anything by using the add content. By choosing document, we can add anything from our computer. We have a lot of extensions available, as you can see, and the max file size per file added is 100 megabytes. So if you have noticed that there isn't a division that we need to add in the business system, you can quickly add a division by going into the settings, by going to company settings, and then within the settings, you can go to company and divisions, and then view and edit or add any divisions that are necessary. So now that we have our project type set up, and in our last Business Academy session, we went over task types. So we have task types set up in our settings. So now I'd like to go into a project and demonstrate all the functionality that we can use within any project that we add. So to do this, let me collapse all these settings. To do this, we can go into the Projects tab up top and choose Projects. This will take us to our projects list, in which we can search to view any and all projects that we currently have in our business system. Now, the projects list will list the customer, the name of the project, the person responsible for each project, the type of project that it is, the division that's assigned, the promise date for each project, the status. If there's a status note, it'll be displayed here as well. The budget will be displayed, as well as any invoices that are attached to the project. Now I can view any project by clicking on the hyperlink of the name and number of the project. But for our purposes today, I'd like to add a brand new project and explore all the functionality when creating a new project and everything that we can view and add within it. Now to add a new project, I'll just click the blue Add button. And this will bring us to an Add Project screen where we can note a lot of different information relating to our brand new project. Now the first option available is the type. Now if I hit the Choose button, we can associate any type, and right down at the last one is Support Project. And this is the project type we just added before. So here I'll choose that particular project type. I can name the project. Support and maintenance. I can associate a customer. And after associating a customer, I can associate a contact as well. And my project manager will default to me since I'm the one adding the project. I can erase my name, however, and choose anybody from the drop-down that I need. Now you'll note that the only required fields when adding a new project is the name of the project. Everything else is optional. But again, for our purposes, we'll fill out everything and we'll click Create to jump right into the project. So here we are in a brand new project. We have our name of the project up top, along with the customer name, the status of the project. We have the approved order total and the total revenue of the project. Now this is what we call the project info bar, and this will list any info related to the project and summarize anything. Now if we want to add anything or subtract anything in the info bar, we can click the settings or gear icon. And here we can add or remove anything from the info bar that we so choose. So for instance, if I take out total revenue and click Save and Close, that'll be removed from my project info bar. Now in the project itself, we have a big tasks section, and this will have any tasks that are added to the project. Now within each task, they'll be listed within this dotted line field right here. But to add a new task, you'll add it wherever it says enter title for new task. But before we go into tasks within projects, I'd like to go through all the icons that we have on the far left, which you'll see here as I hover over them. Now the first that we see in front of us is the info bar, and this will list is the info tab, and this will list any information related to the project. Now you may notice the on target is in blue, and if we choose this if we click the blue field, this will change to off target, and this will note whether the project is on or off its target. Now down below we have the name of the project, which we can edit here. We have the status of the project. Now there's four statuses of any project. There's pending, which means that we're currently working on building the project. In progress means we're currently doing work on the project. Done means that the project is finished. And canceled means that we're no longer doing work on the project because we've lost the business or maybe plans fell through. And we can choose any of those statuses from the drop down here. Now, since we're building out the project, I'll leave this as pending. Now, the status note you'll see here, and the status note is to send a status note is visible on the partner portal, and we can use the envelope here to send a notification out to whoever's assigned to the project. So you'll see I'm assigned since I'm the project manager and the only assignment right now. And we're also choosing to email Valerie Johnson since she's the project recipient. I can add anybody by choosing recipients and choosing anybody, including any contacts that are listed with the contact field on the right, or any internal users that do not have any title bars on the far right. The subject will change the subject of the email, and the content will be the customer name, the project name, which is also a hyperlink so they can view that in the portal, or the internal system if it's an internal user, and the status. Now to send that, we'll just click send, and that'll send to those particular recipients. If you want to go back to the project, we'll just click close. Now within that, we had a merge field for status note, and this is where you'll enter the status note. So this is any note on a change in status or where the project stands currently. So if I just write building the project dash preliminary, if I click out of that box, it changes to green, which means that it's saved. And if I click that email option, you'll note the status has changed to what I've written in the status note box. Now the type is what we've added when creating the project, but we can change that to fit our needs as well while we're in the project. We have the customer, the contact, and the project manager that we've added. And you'll note that because we already assigned divisions on the project type, all three of those divisions have already been assigned since the project type has been selected up top. Now within the project, we can add any more divisions that we'd like. We can also subtract any divisions by choosing the trash can option. We can choose priorities of the project. Now by default, this is normal and high, but you can also add any priorities within the settings. And to demonstrate that, I can go to the company and settings, which I'll open in a new tab so we don't lose our project status. And within the projects, you'll see project priorities. Now here we have our two defaults, normal and high. If you want to add anything, we can click the add button. and we can add any status that we need. We can add a description. And then we can change our color of the icon. We can also mark whether it's a default status for the projects and choose Save and Close. So now we have our third project priority. We have our note that was entered over here, and any that are default will have the default status noted. So now if I close that tab out, I can go back to the project. I'll refresh the page. Now the project saves as you're doing things, so you won't have to save the project whenever you're refreshing a page or visiting another page. It'll save automatically as you do things. Now as I scroll back down to the priority and I click the normal, we have the emergency that was added in the settings, which we can use in our projects. So here we have dates, including our start date and end date. So the start date will be when we want to start work on the project. So for instance, if I choose the 3rd, I can note that's the start date of the project or the projected start date. And the end date will note when we want to end the project on or when the goal of ending the project is. Now again, because we've configured our project type, the end date is required. So here I can choose my end date and go into the future for whenever this needs to be completed. So let's say it needs to be done 2 weeks before Christmas. We'll put the 14th. And now down below that are budget information. So we can have budget dollars for how much budget we have for this particular project. We can put the project hours. So how many hours are we scheduled to work on this project right now? We can issue our objective. Now by default, this is a alphanumeric multi-line, which means we can enter multiple lines within here. And we can also choose the pen and pad icon to issue an advanced editor to really detail a lot more information of the project's objective. Now you can enter really anything within the project objective. If you click the 3 dots, or the breadcrumbs as I like to call them, we have multiple options that drop down from there, including insert a hyperlink, insert image, create table. We can view an HTML. We can center a line in the left or right, provide a strike through indent. We have multiple different formats that are available within the editor. We can bold if we want. And by clicking save, we'll go back to the objective and you'll note our changes in the objective screen. Now the objective we can add here, and we can add any internal notes as well in the internal notes field, and that has an advanced editor as well. Now because we added a custom field, we have our new section called support requirements, and the custom field is in red, meaning that we haven't filled anything out here yet. So to edit this, I can click on the custom field name itself, and I can enter any information here. Now because it's a multi-field, I can go ahead and enter any letters or numbers in this field. So now after filling out the custom field, I can click update, and now the custom field will change to black font, and my response is noted below. So that's the project info screen. Now there's more in the project info screen, which we'll get into after we've customized our project. But for right now, I just want to go down these project tabs. So next up is the assignments. So if I click the assignments, because I'm the one who created the project and I've assigned myself as the project manager, I'm the only assignment on the project right now. We can add the another assignment by clicking the Add Assignment button. And this will allow us to choose an assignment category. Now we have the technician team that we've added in our settings, which we can choose. And from the assign to, we can choose any team within our settings. We can also note whether this is visible on the portal or not, and we can also note whether it's primary. By clicking Save, you'll note that because we made this visible on the partner portal, there's a blue globe, and that's available for all assignments. So if I click Add on my name, for instance, I'm the primary since I was the one who created the project and I'm the project manager, but I can also choose visible on the portal and choose Save, and now that blue globe appears again. You can add multiple different assignments, and those assignments can be pools, individuals, or teams. So if I choose another assignment, I can add a different assignment category, such as a sales rep, and choose anybody from the drop-down. I can choose an account manager and choose anybody from the drop-down as well. Mark visible on the portal. We can also add a description. So I'll write primary assignment for Pelican Freight and choose Save. And now I have that other assignment as well. Now the other tab is milestones. Now some projects won't have milestones, some will. Essentially, milestones will separate out the project's timeline and issue out separate goals in which tasks can make up those particular goals to make sure that those milestones are being accomplished correctly. Now to replicate this workflow, I'll choose Add Milestone, and here we can name our milestone. So plan for upcoming support. I'll choose my start date, so that since this is going to be the first milestone, I'll start it when the project starts, which is September 3rd. And I'll end for whenever we need this particular milestone or group of tasks to end. So let's say that this needs to be done by the end of September. I'll choose September 30th as the end date. The person responsible, again, defaults to whoever's making the milestone, but we can adjust this as well to choose anybody from the dropdown that we see. I can add any notes in here, and I can also mark this milestone visible on the partner portal. So when I click Save, we have our new milestone with the end date as the calendar date. And over here, we have the milestone added in our list of tasks. So now we can add tasks underneath this milestone. And you'll note on the far right, we have the blue globe noting that this milestone is visible on the partner portal. We can add as many milestones as we'd like. So I'll add another one for send out technicians to perform weekly support. And again, I'm just going to change my dates. Now that last milestone ended on September 30th. So we'll make this milestone start October 1st. And again, let's assume that this is going to be the majority of the project. We'll go to the end of November. We can change our person responsible. We can add any notes, and we can also mark visible on the portal. We'll choose save, and now we have a second milestone with, again, that end date as the calendar date. And on the far right of the milestone, we have the blue globe noting that it's visible. Now let's add our last milestone. Prepare for project's end. Ensure customer is satisfied. And we'll make this our last milestone. We'll make this for the 1st of December to when the project ends, which is December 14th. Mark visible in the portal and click save. And now we have our third and final milestone. And you'll note that all of our milestones do not overlap, and that it starts on the project start date and it ends on the project's due date. Now these milestones can be edited at any time. So if we run later than we planned and we have to push it back to another week, we can do so at any time. Now you may notice that when I click add, there's a little number on the top right. And these are the number of days that is included within the milestone. So there's 26 days of this particular milestone. If I go into November 30th, there's 70 days. And if I go into the last one, we can see 80. Now, any of these globes can be turned on and off simply by clicking on the globe itself. Now, the black or gray globe means that it's not visible on the partner portal. Blue, as I click back on, means that it is visible on the partner portal. Now, the fourth tab down are labels, and we can add any labels into our project, and this will note anything on an aerial level and give us an overview of any labels for each task. So here, if I add a label, maintenance required, I can change the color of my label and click save. And now I have a new label. I can also make the label visible on the partner portal by clicking on the globe. And I can add as many labels as I want, dictating different information to differentiate tasks. I can change my color to anything that we see here. And again, I can choose my globe. Now, each label can be archived, which means that when we're finished using the label, we can click archive, and that label will disappear from view. Now, if we want to reactivate it, we can choose show archived, and here's that archived label. And by choosing those three little dots, we can choose to unarchive, which adds it back to our labels as well. Now, if we need to edit, we can choose the breadcrumbs or the three dots and choose the edit button. And here I can change the color of my label again or change the name as well. Now, also within the project tabs, we have the project hub. So each project will have its own hub, which we can enter any documents or folders, and we can also add content groups and sections. Now, as we discussed in our human resources webinar of business, a hub is what I like to refer to as a digital filing cabinet. So within the filing cabinet, we have content groups. And think of content groups as almost like a separator in which folders are held. So here I can add any folders. So I'll just name it support documentation and click save. So we have a folder, and we can add as many folders here as we like. And within the folder, I can add particular documents. I can mark whether the document is visible on the partner portal. And this is an important thing to note, because if you want your customer contacts to see any documents in the partner portal, you'll have to mark visible on the partner portal for each document. Now we can also restrict access to any internal users by adding them from the dropdown and choosing their access level. So view only means they can only view the document. Full access means they can not only view, but also edit. Now, if I don't have anybody listed, then everybody within my company can access this particular file as long as they have the hub permissions that are necessary for that. So if I choose save and close, we'll have the document added within the folder. And let's also add another document outside of the folder. We'll mark visible on the partner portal and click save and close. Now, as we add content groups, this will add another section. So customer information, and choose save. And now we have another content group in which we can add folders and documents as well. So I'll add another document over here. I'll mark visible in the partner portal and click save. And now we have another document in this particular content group. Now by default, the first contact group is called uncategorized, but you can rename that by clicking on the hyperlink or clicking the pen and pad icon to change the name over here as well. So now that I have my hub configured, I have my folders. I can edit the folder name over here as well. And I can also manage access of the folder to restrict certain users to see it as well. And also with any folder or document, you can also share. And by clicking the share, we can copy and paste the URL into an email or message and relay that URL for any internal user to see this particular folder. Now to go back to the project, since the project hub is open in a new tab, we'll simply close out that tab and we're right back into the project. Now the last tab on the far left is the little pie chart, and this is a surveying tab. So if I click surveying, here we can add any surveys, quizzes, assessments, or forms to the project for the customer contacts or internal users working on the project to fill out. So now that we've gone over the far left tabs, now let's start adding tasks to our projects and seeing what we can do with our milestones. Now, as discussed before, to add tasks, we'll simply enter the title of each task underneath the appropriate milestone. So here for plan for upcoming support, plan labor time for employees and teams. Now to create the task, we'll just click the enter button and the new task will be assigned automatically. And we can do that for any multiple types of tasks. So if we want to add another task, meet with assignees, to discuss the plan and objective for the project. Enter to create another task, and let's create one final task. So now we have 3 tasks in the first milestone. So we have plan labor time for employees and teams, meet with assignees to discuss the plan and objective for the project, and finally plan for the upcoming project and details needed. Now for the second milestone, this is when we're sending out technicians to perform weekly support. So let's put meet with customer contacts to understand their support needs, provide support as needed to aid their operations. Support, provide updates weekly. Say provide weekly updates to project manager. And again, as I'm entering tasks, I'm just hitting the enter button to create those tasks within the particular milestone. So now that we have some base tasks, in this milestone, we can go to the final milestone, meet with customer contact to ensure happiness, confirm with project manager that things are complete, prepare for project end. So now I have 3 tasks within each milestone. Now we have added our labels to the left, and we can add any labels that we need simply by dragging and dropping the task on top of the label. So here, plan for labor time. We can note that the project manager is needed within this task. Let's add that for all of these, since the project manager will be planning for all this information here. Now for anything that we see here that needs maintenance, for instance, this will be the maintenance. And here we'll add maintenance required and the project manager required, since our support team will be meeting with the project manager. Now these will do maintenance required. We'll add both the maintenance and project manager. And again, to add these, I'm just dragging and dropping. And right over the label, I'm just unclicking, and it automatically adds those labels. So for the last one, I'll add both again. So now we have our labels added to our tasks. So now it's looking a little bit more complete. We have our tasks built. We have our individual labels added. Now on the very far right, we have our assignments over here as well. Now if we click on the assignments tab, which is the little person icon, we have our assignments for the particular project. So if you want to add assignments over here, we can do the same thing that we did for labels. So here, if we do plan time for employees, we'll drag and drop over the project manager. And again, I'm just unclicking to assign that particular assignment. So I'm dragging and dropping, unclick, and it assigns. Now, since this is our support team, we'll go to the red team and unassign. And we'll do that for anything where we have the maintenance required. So the first milestone is all for the project manager to complete, and the other two are really for our support staff to either meet with our project manager or complete the support as needed. Now, to view each task, we can simply click into the task, and that task information will populate on the far right. We can also expand this as needed by dragging the column over. We can also minimize that as needed as well. And we have a lot of top icons up here, and each one has different information. So the first one is a share, which we can copy and paste the URL into a messenger email to any internal users to view this particular task. The circular arrows is a refresh button, so we can refresh the task itself. The paperclip is an attachment, so we can add any attachments to the particular task. And as you can see, we have a lot of extensions that are available, and the max file size per document added is 10 megabytes. We have a link, so anything that is linked to this task, we can have in linked. So for instance, if this was a recurring task, the recurring tasks that are linked to this one would be in the linked. The audit log will note any changes that were made. Now this checkbox is a checklist, and a checklist is a really handy feature. So if I click checklist, I can add any checklist items here. Now this is, since this particular task is planned for labor time for employees and teams, I'll choose the first checklist, plan for labor time for red team, add, plan for discussion with contact. And now I have two different checklist items. Now it's important to note that with the checklist, we have very neat functionality as well, which is a printable view. So if we want to print off the checklist, we can choose printable view down here. And this will show all of our checklists, and we can print it off in our local printer by clicking print. And here we can choose what we're going to print to and print off our checklist. Now this also prints all the status changes of the checklist. So for instance, if I go back to our task, I can click the checkbox and enter any notes, planned labor, and we'll meet with the red team for updates. When I click save, it saves that note on the particular checklist. You'll note that because I entered the note, it was checked by Brian Kinney at 8/23/2018, and it's timestamped as well. And here's the note I entered. Now you'll notice when I click printable view again, we have the check mark. That means that we've checked off the note. We have the audit for who entered the note and when, and we also have the note down here as well. So this really comes in handy if you have a lot of checklists in a certain task and you want to provide a printable update to your contacts or your assignees. You can do that by printing off the checklist. Now we also have messages in the task. We can message either contacts or internal users. Now the customer will be assigned since that customer is related to the project. But if we choose recipients, any contact will be noted with a C, and any internal users will just have their names. Now as you scroll down, because we noted that on the project type, the default task type was support ticket, each and every task that we have here will have support ticket as the default task. So that's a really neat feature with the task type, is that when you add your defaults like the assignment category and your default task types, they're automatically assigned as you create things. Now within each task type, we can have a start and due date. So here I can say this starts September 3rd, since that's when our project starts. And I'll just do a weekly basis. So let's do that week. We'll adjust it for here as well. So let's go to the 10th to the 14th. And we can do that for all these tasks to really make sure that our project is accurate in terms of assigning all of our dates correctly. Now within each task, you can also enter a budget. And the budget will allow us to note how many hours we're supposed to work on this task. And we can do that by entering that in the budget. So if this is supposed to be 8 hours, we can note the 8. And you'll notice that even though the budget is added here, it's also added in our milestone view. So now we have the 8 entered in between the assignment picture and the label. Now I can do that for any task that we see here, since the task type has us allowing a budget. Now, as we're adding our budget hours, it's not only adding in each task, but it's also adding up in the milestone. So 8 times 3 is 24, and you'll see the 24 is noted in the milestone, which means that's the total number of budget hours we have for that particular milestone. That'll change as we're updating our budget. So if I change this to 16, you'll notice it jumps to 32. Now to save all this information in the task, it saves automatically. So you can simply close the task. So if I view another task, all that's saved automatically. So it's really handy in terms of managing your projects. Everything's in real time. As I go down, I can keep doing that. So I can keep really customizing our project to make sure that all our dates are accurate and that we're keeping up with when things need to be done. So here, because this particular milestone is a little bit longer than the others, I'll add more time to each. Now here again, we can add our budgets. This one, I'll actually go to the start of the milestone. So here, if we add our budgets, so let's say this is going to be 80 hours. We can update that for anything that we see here. And again, we have our budgets added, as well as our summation of all our budgets at the top of the milestone. And lastly, we'll configure this milestone with all the tasks. So this one starts December 3rd. And since this is our shortest milestone, we'll make sure everything is according in terms of our dates. So this might be a little shorter in time. And then finally, I'll add my budgets again. So now we have all of our budgets filled out along with our start and due dates for all of our tasks. So now we're really getting close to having a complete project. Now, please note that apart from all of our milestone budgets, we also have a complete project budget up here. So we can see that we have 168 hours scheduled for our project. Now we can always add or subtract budgets within each task as we go. So if we realize that we actually need more than 8 hours, we can put 12, and that'll automatically save as we're changing. Now as we scroll down, we can see all of the information for the task. We can put any requested bys. So if I put our contact, that means that she's requested this particular task. Here we can enter a description for the task. Now the description can be seen by the customer, so that is all customer visible information. The notes section is any information that is just for internal purposes. Now within the notes, we have a really neat feature called tagging. And if you tag another internal user, they'll get an email with a link to the task notifying them of that task note. So for instance, if I tag myself, I can choose the person from here. Now to enter a tag, you'll click the plus button followed by the name of the person, or you can do an @ symbol followed by the name of the person. And either way will create a tag for that internal user. And just by clicking enter, that user will get a notification in the form of an email with that task note information. So that's also a very cool functionality within Notes to communicate back and forth with your internal users. As we scroll up, because this needs to be approved, we can go ahead and approve the task since I'm the project manager. So as I go down, we can simply approve all of this to make sure that these go into effect appropriately. Now you'll note that, again, because of the project type, we've marked this needs to be reviewed before it's marked done. So that is how you would build a project in terms of adding your budgets, your tasks, your labels, and your assignments. And the drag and drop functionality is a really easy thing to do. Now, if you need to add an assignment, if you drag and drop, it's going to reassign. But if we click down on this one that has the double labels, if you want to add an assignment, we can click in the Add Assignee and choose a name. And just by choosing the name, they'll be added to the assignment, and you'll note that now we have 2 icons in the assignment options. And we can do that for any task that we see here. The person with the circular arrows will reassign the task to somebody else. So if I click that option and type in a name, that'll be reassigned to me, and now that icon will change to my image. Now we can delete with any trash can, so we can remove an assignee. And again, because everything is in real time, now that image will disappear from view. Now within the project, there's a gear icon here. And if I choose the gear icon, I can quickly add a milestone by using that option. I can also include completed work. This means that if I have any milestones or tasks that have been marked done, I can see them by choosing Include Completed Work. Include Done Tasks will only include done tasks. It will not include any done milestones. So if you ever want to see done milestones, it's important to click the Include Completed Work rather than Include Done Tasks. Now there's also an option for task display settings, and if I choose that option, I can choose what I want to see on each task within the project. So if I want to see the start and due date, I can choose those options. Now as I choose start and due date, I can also choose to include time as well. Now since we're not tracking time with our task types, I'll leave those unchecked. But as I click apply, you'll see the changes take effect. So now each task within the milestones has the start and due date noted. And as we scroll down, we can see all that information in front of us. So this is really handy for any project managers managing projects and seeing the start and due dates and managing how the progress is going on the particular project. Now, apart from the gear icon, we also have this icon over here, which will allow us to switch views. Now, the default view for the project is what we call the milestones view, and that's the view that we've been working with all along, which lists our milestones out one by one with all the tasks underneath the milestones. But we also have what we call a project board view, and if I click this icon over here on the left, we can choose project board, and you'll note the differences right away. So now we have all of our tasks listed up and down, but they're separated by statuses of open and done. And these are default statuses for any project. Now you may notice that we're only seeing 3, and that's because we're only displaying by particular milestones. And we can change milestones by clicking on the field up here and either choosing an individual milestone from the dropdown to list all the tasks, or we can click all tasks to see all tasks in our project. Now the budgets will remain on the task screen along with the assignments and the labels. And if we want to add more statuses to the project board, we can do so by clicking the gear and icon over here. And now we have different options than we had on the milestone view. We still have our task display settings, but now we have customize board. And if I choose customize board, this is where I can add my different statuses. So again, our defaults are open and done, but we can add more things like in progress. And just by clicking enter, we'll have our new status. We can add anything in here that we want. So if I want to have another open, I can choose to add an open. And for any done, we'll choose needs review. We'll click enter to enter in that new status. Let's add another one for reviewed. Click enter. And finally, let's add one more called done. So now we have some default project board statuses. Now another word for these is buckets. So each bucket will be where the task is moving along within its status. Now we can rearrange these by clicking on the arrows over here and dragging and dropping as we see fit. Now we can also change the colors of each of these by choosing the color option over here and changing the color as we go. Now to change the color, you'll simply click on a new color option from the field over here. Choose the color that you want and simply unclick out of that box and the color will change automatically. Now to delete, you can just click the delete option and that'll go back, and then we can re-enter that as well if we need to. And again, the drag and drop is available throughout the status board. We can change the color. So I'll just go along with the color option and make a nice little rainbow here. So now we have all of our different colors. And to make those all take effect, we can choose close. So now we have all of our project board statuses over here. Now to move these from status to status, we have the drag and drop function available here as well. So we'll just drag and drop to open. And again, just like the assignments, we'll simply drag over and unclick, and that reassigns everything. So again, I'm going to click, hold, drag, unclick, and there it goes. Now we can move these along as we see fit. So if this is done, but it needs to be reviewed, we can move it over to the needs review, and we'll just keep moving it over as the status continues on towards the done phase. So the project board will move things along in statuses in terms of when they're open to when they're done. And as we move things to done, you'll note that the budget will change. So now since this task budget was 8, since it's in the done category, it goes from 0 to 8, noting that 8 hours of the total 172 budget hours has been completed. Now if I move it back to in progress, the 8 becomes 0 again, meaning that we have no work done on this project as of right now. So as things move along on the project board, that budget will add up, and eventually when everything's done, there will be a 172 and 172 next to each other, noting that all tasks have been marked complete. Now if I want to go back to the project board view, I can click the window option and choose milestone view. Now each view has its own set of perks and its own functions. So the milestone view, you can really view the individual tasks and see what's underneath each milestone, And the project board view will allow you to move things along their buckets from open to done, and according to the progress of not only each task, but each milestone as well. So now that we've gone over the project, the budgets, the different views that are available, I'd like to go into something that I teased a little earlier, which is in the project info, and that's the 3 dots over here, or what I like to call the breadcrumbs option. So if I click that, I have a lot more information over here that I can customize in the project info. So anything with order is referring to sales orders, so I can assign a sales order to this project. I can create an order for the project. I can view orders that are assigned to the project. I can also create a sales opportunity for the project. I can mark the project as reviewed, which again, from the project type that we have assigned, this project will need to be marked reviewed before it's marked done. So that's where you can mark the project as reviewed, is underneath the breadcrumbs option in the project info tab. We have an audit log to view changes in the project. We have a notes field, so we can enter notes in terms of how the project is moving along. And we also have a messages, and this is a message for the entire project. Now, if we click the notes, we have a notes log here. Built out the project with assignments, labels, milestones, and tasks. Moving it to in progress. So now if I want to add that note, I'll just click the add button. And now we have a new project note, and we have the audit to see who entered it and when. And we can keep adding notes as the project moves along, noting any changes in the project's progress. To go back to the project, we can either click the X button to close out, or we can click the close button So now if we choose the breadcrumbs, we have all those options available again. Now, if we want to assign an order to the project, I'll click Assign Order, and here I'll choose the order name. Now, because we have a customer assigned to the order, we have all the orders that are open for that particular customer. So if I choose an order from down here, I can choose Assign, and now that order has been assigned to the project. If I want to assign another order, I can do the same thing, choose the project, and click Assign, but this time I'll choose Assign and Close. So now I'm back in the project. If I want to view the orders that I just assigned, I'll choose the breadcrumbs and choose View Orders. And now I can see all the orders that are assigned to that project. I can view the order totals, as well as how much has been invoiced for the particular project. So here I can see the sales rep, the type of order that it is, the status of the order date, the approval date, the target date or when it should be completed, the total of the order, as well as the invoiced total. Now, if the order hasn't been invoiced, it will be 0. If it has been invoiced, the invoice total will be over here. So now if I go back to the project, I can keep working on that project. Now, since I entered the note in terms of changing the project status to in progress, I'll choose the status of pending and change that to in progress. This means that rather than being a preliminary project or building the project, in progress would mean that now we're working on the project. We're doing work to move along to its completion and fulfill our customers' needs. Now, if I want to close out of the project info, I'll just click the close button over here, and we can expand our milestone view. Now, the same is true for tasks. If I want this to be hidden from view, I can choose the close option, and now our milestone view is completely taking up our screen so we can view more information with those milestones and tasks. Now, another option that I'd like to point out are filters. Now, filters are when you click on certain options. So if I want to hide everything except for a certain milestone, for instance, I can click on the plan for upcoming support, and only those tasks will be in my view. Now, I can do that for any milestone that we see here, and just by clicking on them, everything else would be hidden except the milestones and the tasks and labels and budgets of those underneath those particular milestones. Now, if I want to see everything again, I'll just go up to the top and we have something called Clear Filters. And by choosing that option, we'll go back to our normal milestone view. Now, the same is available for labels. So if I only want to see something with maintenance required as the label, I'll click on that label and everything else without that label will be hidden. And I can do the same for project manager needed. And again, to go back, I'll just choose Clear Filters. And lastly, I can do that for the project assignment. Clear Filters, and we'll go back. So that's also a cool functionality that I'd like to point out. So if you want to view something really in particular, you can narrow down by either the milestone, the assignment, or the label, and view only that particular information. Now, as I mark these done, I can do so in the tab itself. Now you'll note that because this has a checklist, the checklist must be complete before the task is marked done. So to do that, I'll go into the checklist again, which we can see 1 out of 2 has been marked done. I'll click on the checklist. I'll check that off. Now we can enter notes just like we did up here, but it's not required. We can simply check and click Save. We can print that off again by clicking the printable view, and now you'll see both are checked off with that audit And we can go back by exiting out. If we refresh that, now we have 2 out of 2, and I can successfully mark that task as done. Now, as I mark it done, you'll see that the status has changed to reviewed automatically, since that's our done. And we can do that for any task that we see here. Now, again, the other option is to view the project board. So if I go to the project board, I can also move things along as needed by dragging and dropping into their particular statuses. So as you'll see in between, for each milestone, that budget is adding up towards that completed total. And we can simulate that for each project board view in each milestone. Now for projects, another helpful option is to see what the customer sees when it's marked visible on the portal. So now as we can see, judging by the milestones, all the milestones have a blue globe, which means they're all visible on the portal. We have a task type that is visible on the portal, so that's support ticket. Our labels are all visible on the portal, so that's the blue globe option. And also all of our assignments are visible on the portal. Now to go into the portal, I'll just open up our customers, and I can also do that with the info tab. Now with the info tab, if we hover over the customer, we have an arrow, and this will take us to our customer information. We can also do that for the contact and the project manager as well. So this will take us to the entity's information. So if I want to view Pelican Freight's information, I'll click the arrow that hovers over, and that'll open a new tab so I can view their dashboard. Now, if I want to go into their portal, I'll go to the contacts. I'll click Valerie Johnson. And we can simulate what the project looks like in their partner portal. So here's their partner portal. We can see their assignments are listed over here on the right. Now, these are the customer assignments, not the project assignments. But if you have customer assignments listed, they'll be over here on the far right. And if we go down, we have our projects listed here. So you can see this is the one that we just built. The target date is 12/14/2018. If it's in green, that means it's on target. If it's red, that means it's off target. Now the statuses are listed down below, so we can see both of these are in progress. And simply by clicking on the project name, we can go into that project to see all the information. Now on the far left, we can see all the assignments that we marked visible on the portal. We have all of our tasks, because our task type is marked visible on the portal as well. All of our milestones are visible, as are our labels that we created. Now they can click into each task to view the information within the task, so they can see that it was approved by such and such on a date. They can see the status, the requested by, the task date, the order that's associated. And if they can also include done tasks by checking include done tasks, and that'll show anything that is marked done. Now in parentheses next to open or done, these are the project board statuses that we've added into our project. So you'll see these are both reviewed, and the open is open, and this open is in progress. So these are the buckets that we've added into our tasks as we're moving things along. Now also, since we marked that custom field visible on our project info tab, here's that information as well. So if you mark a custom field as visible, they can see that within the project also. Now you may remember we added documents and folders into the hub, and we marked those visible also. So if I click into the Hub tab, their Hub view looks just like ours. They can see all of the documents. They can click into the folders and see the documents within the folders. So as long as you mark things visible on the portal, they'll be able to see all the information that you allow them to see. Now finally, if I click the Orders tab, we can see the orders that we assigned to the project as well. And here they can see the status of the projects, the name of the projects, or the name of the orders, excuse me. And they can click on the name of the order to view that information also. So here they can view the order total, the address that it's billing and shipping to, who was approved by and when. And since this order is hiding the items are not visible. And they can also go to that information by using the customer info and either clicking on projects, orders, tasks, or milestones, and view all the appropriate information that they want to view. So if I click projects, I can view all the projects and go back into that project's information. Now within projects, we've also enabled the happiness rating. So you'll see the 3 faces are over here on the top right, and they can leave a rating for any task. So if I click into that task of the project, we have the 3 faces to rate the task. And we can also rate the overall project. So by clicking on one of the 3 faces, I apologize for that. Looks like something went wrong with the face. But when they click on the face will highlight in that appropriate color. So if I click on happy, it'll remain green. If I click on satisfied, it will remain yellow. And if I click on unhappy, it'll remain red. And we can then leave any additional feedback about that rating and why we rated it like that. Now, if we've added any messages from the project level, we can view them over here with the message log. And this will also allow our customer contacts to message us from the portal. So if I choose add new message, I can choose who we're emailing to, and I can either enter an email address in the to box, or I can click the people icon over here on the right and choose an individual user or contact as well. Now by default, the customer contact can email or message any customer assignments on the customer level within our business system. So as we saw when we first logged into the portal, Brenda Quinn and Jeff Stevenson were assignments, so they can email both or one of their assignments, as well as any other contacts that we have in our business system that have portal access. So as you can see, as long as we're making things visible on the partner portal, they'll be able to view a lot of what we add in either the task, the project, or the milestone within our business system. So now if I X out of this, we can go back into our business system. Now, another thing I want to talk about in terms of projects are reports. So we have a lot of reports with our projects, but the 2 main ones that I'd like to discuss in a little bit more detail are, number 1, our project profitability report, and number 2, our burn down report. Now, each one will detail different things relating to our projects, but let's first jump into the project profitability report to see exactly what we can report on in terms of our projects. To view that, I'll click on the Reports tab. And underneath the project section, the first one available to us is profitability. And by clicking on profitability, we'll be able to run our project profitability report. So here we have our project profitability. We can choose what project status we want to view, whether it's pending, in progress, done, or canceled. We can filter for any project types that we want to view as well. We can either check all or only check one to fit our needs. We can search by project name, project number, and we can also search for the customer assigned to the project. And if we use the blue arrow, we can also filter for what the status has been changed to recently, when the status was changed, and we can use the calendar functions for that as well. And we can also filter for promise dates. Now, if I click search, since I've added the project statuses of pending and in progress for any projects that are assigned to Pelican Freight Company, I can choose search. And now we see that project that fits is the Pelican Freight Company project we were previously working on, support and maintenance. So we have a lot of information within this report, including a hyperlink for the customer information to open up their dashboard in another tab. We have the project hyperlink to actually view the project. And then we have a lot of base project information, including the status of the project, the sales order total that is related to the project. So those are the totals that we assigned using the breadcrumbs feature on the project info tab in the project. We can also assign purchase orders to the project, and the totals of all those orders will be noted here. The revenue will be noted here as well. The labor hours, so if we have timesheets that are assigned to the project, that labor hour total in dollars will be noted here, as well as any expenses charged to the order that is related to the project. The total cost will sum up both the labor cost and the expense cost in a total sum. Within each particular column, you can sort by either ascending or descending. We have the profit, so what we've made on the project so far, and our profit margin in percentage, and our profit in percentage. Now, if you want to see all the projects, we can simply erase the customer, for instance, and I'll choose search again. And here we can see other projects that are in pending and in progress status and view all the order totals and profit totals assigned to those projects. Now, the other report that I kind of teased at a little bit before was the burn down report. Now, to view the burn down report, we'll go back to the projects list. So to do that, we'll click the project tab and projects from the dropdown. And if I click search, without any search filters, we'll be able to view all of our projects. So right here is the project that we were previously working on. And now to view the burn down report, we'll click the 3 lines, which is also called the hamburger menu. And if I click that, we have the ability to create an order associated with the project. We have the option to create an opportunity or sales opportunity for the project. But lastly, we have view burn down report. So if I click view burn down report, that'll open another tab. And here we can see all the information related to the particular project. So we have the customer, the project, the milestone, which we can choose with this hyperlink, the start date of the project, the total budget hours of the project, the completed budget hours of the project, and how many hours are remaining in our total budget hours. Now, the burn down report will project either how much resources we need to work per day, or how many hours we need to work per day to accomplish a certain date goal, or we can type in hours to project our end date. Now that we can accomplish this by any one of these two options here. So for instance, if we want to predict how many hours we need to work per day to complete this particular project by September 7th, we'll choose our calendar feature and choose September 7th. And the burn rate will go to 13.82, which means in order to complete the project by September 7th, we need to work more than 13 hours per day to complete the project by this particular date. Now we can choose any date range from that calendar feature, and the burn down rate will automatically adjust based on that end date. So this will project how many hours we need to work based on the projected end date that we enter in here. Now just the opposite, if we want to project when our end date is by how many hours we work in the day, we can do that with the second option. So if I say, well, my technicians can only really work 5 hours per day, I want to see how long it will take me to finish this project. So if I choose 5 hours per day, the estimated completion date will change to the 8th of October. If I enter more or less burn rate or projected work hours per day, that estimated completion date will change based on the hours. So that was more hours, so the completion date lowered to September 20th. And if I enter less, for instance, 1 hour, it'll be projected to be done by March 26th of next year. So the burn down rate is a really handy report that you can run to project how long it will take to complete the project, either based on the date range that you put in or the estimated hours you can work per day. And it'll project the end rate or the burn rate or work hours per day that is needed to complete the project. Now, if I filtered for milestone, you'll see the total hours change for that particular milestone. So you'll see that total hours are 16. We've completed 20, so there's 16 hours remaining. And our burn down rate will change based on that particular milestone. So for instance, if I said this needs to be done by tomorrow, we need to work 8 hours today and we need to work 8 hours tomorrow. So that's 8 hours in a day. If I say, well, let's say I can work 6 hours per day, it's going to say, well, this is going to be a projected end date of 8/28. So you can do that per milestone as well, on top of per project. Now, if I exit out of the burn down report, we can go back to our projects list. Now, another report that we have for projects underneath the reporting tab is the milestone status. And this will show us statuses of all milestones within all projects. Now, on the very far left, we have the priority of the milestone. We have the milestone name next to that, the customer assigned to the milestone and or project, the project name, the person responsible for each milestone, the start date of each milestone and the end date of each milestone, when the milestone was completed, how much we're on or off target, and the status of the milestone. Now, anything in red means that we are over target or that we did not complete things on a timely manner. So you'll see the end date was scheduled for 6/25. We actually completed it on 6/27. Therefore, we were 2 days off target. Anything with black, which has a minus sign, means that we're on target. We have 70 days until the completion date, 27 days, and so on and so forth. And the statuses will note whether it's done or pending, which means that we still have work to do on the particular milestone. We also have search filters. We can filter by customer, a project, a division that's assigned to each project, the milestone status, so whether it's pending, done, or canceled. We can also filter for the person responsible. And if I click on the blue down arrow, we can filter for a lot more information as well. Now it's important to note that the burn down report, if I go into the project, I'll show you exactly what's needed to configure a burn down report. So the burn down report needs specific information in order to run and project statuses correctly. So if I go into the project itself, the burn down report will need a few things in order to project correctly. It will need an end date for the project. So this is our end date of the project, because then it will display correctly in terms of the projected end date, in terms of the end date that we entered here. It'll also need budgets. So how much budget we have for each task that we've configured here. And thirdly, it'll need business hours for our company. Now we can see business hours for our company by going into the company settings. And if we click company and settings, we have our business days over here that we've configured. Now that burn down report will take the business days into consideration and run the burn rate based on the business days that we're currently working. So if you have those three things, you have a end date, tasks, task budgets, and your business days configured, the burn down report should work perfectly in terms of projecting the total work hours that you need to complete the project on a certain date, and also the estimated completion date based on the burn rate hours you enter. And with that, I'd like to conclude our projects business webinar. I'd like to thank everybody for joining our Business Academy today. I'd like to open this time about 5 to 10 minutes for any questions you may have. If you don't have any questions, please feel free to leave our Business Academy session. And again, thank you for registering and attending our Business Academy session today.